guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Yes, very useful. And, Coach, it's a great idea by Coach, and identified plenty of strengths and weaknesses that'll help us moving forward, tendencies that we need to break, and just opportunities for us to get better. So, without getting into all the specifics, it was, just a good time to evaluate what we're good at and what we need to improve on so we could focus on those things coming up here in practice.
Okay, how would you send Klint Kubiak's comments through the Coach Speak translator, Judd?
I would say I sat down on Monday, got my ass reamed, was told to watch film, was told to make notes, was told to show up on Tuesday with my thoughts, sat down on Tuesday, got my ass reamed again, told Zim what he wanted to hear, and it's been great.
And then I got my ass reamed
And
again.
then I got my ass reamed three more times since then. So
I wonder
we're up to 5 now.
If you could also ask Klint Kubiak, hey, how do you feel about Mike Zimmer basically saying that you need to go back to the drawing board and have a come to Jesus meeting and do self-evaluation the week before you usually do self-evaluation? How does that sit with you?
Oh, and by the way, have a great bye week then too. I'm sure the off week's going to be totally peaceful if you're Klint.
Oh, Mike, we already did the self scouts. Now I can go on vacation.
Do it again.
Yeah, I think it'll depend on how well they perform offensively in the second half, whether it's on or off script against Carolina. And that brings us into Feedback Friday here on Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment. We've got high standards. We just want championships. That's all we want. We're not asking for much. Maybe more than a championship every 30 years for these men's team sports. And I think the theme on today's Feedback Friday is just Vikings therapy. Combing through, a lot of these are from the Score North app, and I love it. The last couple of weeks, people have discovered that, you can send us feedback through the Score North app, and we absolutely will bring it to the show on Fridays, and we can even sprinkle it in throughout Purple Daily and other shows. During the game last week, I'm looking at the timestamps on some of these that are coming in, and it's like third quarter, and people are just bitching about the Vikings through the Score North app, and I love it. It's hilarious. It's therapeutic.
I so wish you could bring the phone call to the show that you got about the lack of baseball being on the old mighty 1500.
Play some baseball.
We play all kinds of baseball on AM 1500, but we also have partnerships with St. Thomas, football, hockey, basketball, and Minnesota United. And this guy calls and leaves a voicemail, by the way, on my old office phone.
Oh.
I love it. Oh my
And
God.
so someone from the business office had to save the MP3 and emailed it to me. Some poor woman in the business office, as this guy for 45 seconds just lights me up with F-bombs. Where's the bleeping Dodgers Giants?
Come on, Score North.
This is like game 2 Dodgers Giants or something, It's like, all right, dude, well.
Score North.
Sorry,
Score North.
Clickbait.
We are
What are you
your
gonna
home
do
for
wrong?
playoff baseball. I promise we'll get you all the baseball. We've already been getting you most of the baseball.
I was going to say, we're getting you a lot of baseball.
Yeah. So, all right, Vikings therapy is the theme here on this Feedback Friday, where we respond to your comments, questions, thoughts. Austin, via the Score North app, says it's week 5. He said this, I think this was during the game on Sunday. It's week 5. The Vikings have just won a football game. Nobody is excited except for Kirk Cousins, who assaults his coach while screaming in a squeaky voice about how much he likes that.
You like that? You like that?
Zimmer doesn't seem impressed. I'm not impressed either. In fact, no Vikings fan who shared the misfortune of watching this game is impressed by this team. And then Matt, via the Score North app, says, do you think there's a worse coach than Zimmer with a more talented roster? When I look at how much talent is on this roster, I'm convinced that he's the worst coach in the NFL. Now, again, some of these are in the moment of the Vikings either about to lose or barely beating the Lions. But what are you on that second one?
In the moment, you mean with a few of these right in front of them?
A couple cans of Surly.
Yeah.
What do you guys say? I mean, it feels like this roster is much more talented than the performance we've seen and the record so far.
Yeah.
You could also make a case that if the kicker makes a field goal, they're 3-2 right now, and it's funny how that works in the NFL. What do you think about that?
To borrow a Phil Mackey phrase, I will say this: let me reshape that that point because I know what he's saying. Overall, like, okay, it's a good roster. It's not great, but I do think he is on to something very much in the conversation is, does any team with as much offensive potential and talent as the Vikings come close to not maximizing that talent? So I think that where Mike has problems is because he sort of outsources his offense. If you look at the offensive players, that's the problem.
Go ahead. We got breaking news. It's not Vikings related, but
it's not Vikings related. A little Shefty bomb here as we record at 10 a.m. on a Friday. But the Eagles are trading Zach Ertz to the Cardinals for cornerback Tay Gowan and a 2022 fifth-round pick. So Zach Ertz going to go to Arizona and ball out with Kyler Murray. What'd you say, Judd?
Oh, I think that they were trying to trade him in training camp. They had a disagreement during the summer that we talked about a lot, and he was on the Vikings radar, we thought, and I don't know if that was true or not. But yeah, this is not a surprise, and I don't know how much Zach Ertz has left in the gas tank too.
Yeah.
Hopefully Adam ran that story by the correct people in those organizations.
LOL.
Uh,
I saw he apologized for that too. He basically said, "Yeah, you guys are right. I probably shouldn't have sent that whole story to the president of Washington."
How many examples? Yeah, do you really think this is the only one? Roger Goodell's never seen a story that I was about to break.
Okay, on your point about Zimmer and the offense, yeah, I think
that's my problem.
Now, this offensive line, in terms of pass protection, if you go by PFF, they're better than they were last year. They're still like 24th, 25th in pass protection as a unit with grades. According to ESPN's team pass block win rate, they're like 21st. So they're not a total disaster train wreck like they've been at times the last couple of years. And you've got some, I think Rashad Hill's the weakest link, and if Christian Darrisaw can step in and maybe be the starter this week, I think he's an upgrade. So you don't have a Dakota Dozier on the interior. Those guys aren't, Bradbury's even better than he was last year. He's not good at pass protection, but he's better than he was last year. Yeah. So the offensive line overall is better than it was last year. The weapons are still amazing, and it just feels, it's like, dude, they're averaging 5 points per second half at home.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
And the Vikings are not the only team with an offensive line that's questionable.
That's correct. And
like
other
I think
other
we
teams
get
overcome
stuck in that sometimes, right? Like they have a terrible offensive line, and everybody else has Hall of Famers. It's not really true.
Actually, here's the funny thing. According to Pro Football Focus, the Buffalo Bills have a worse offensive line. The New Orleans Saints and the Tennessee Titans this is pass protection, have worse offensive lines.
Interesting.
The Chargers are like right there with the Vikings in the mid-20s. They're 4-1. Teams figured out. The Ravens, well, we all know why they figured out because they have a freaking
joystick.
One of the most ridiculous athletes and best players in the NFL that can just run away from pressure. All right, Feedback Friday here, Vikings Therapy Edition. Matt chimes in via Twitter. I was thinking about Zimmer's approach earlier, and I'm confused. When you love and adore your defense so much, why not take more risks on offense? Air it out. Don't be conservative. Because on the occasions the weapons at your disposal do fall short, your defense can be the savior. And then Kyle chimes in via the Score North app. You guys keep talking about Zimmer's mindset offensively to be conservative, which I totally agree with. I don't understand why he wouldn't want the offense to take as many shots as possible. Playing with a 10-point lead allows him to show his defensive creativity, which is an alleged strength of his. Up in the second half at home is when you can send Harrison Smith on a blitz or drop Hunter into coverage on the edge. He should want to be aggressive offensively to let his defensive stars shine, but he's a coward. I hope we lose to Carolina. That escalated quickly.
Wow,
dude.
I agree with this sentiment in that your defense is going to be better if you can build bigger leads offensively. But their offensive strategy, and we've gone over this, if you missed the Purple Daily on Thursdays, we do the state of the offense, and we went through, Vikings' average depth of target offensively is like bottom 3 in the NFL. Vikings, in terms of play calling on second down, some of the most conservative play calling you're going to see in the NFL. They are scheming and strategizing their offense, and maybe Kirk is conservative by nature too. They're scheming and they're strategizing their offense to minimize the upside. Like they're basically playing for 17 points offensively, and if they happen to break a big play on the 3 shots they take, then so be it. But your defense is going to look at Tampa. Like when Tampa gets up, and last night was kind of a bad example, but when Tampa gets up, or maybe I'll pick a non-Tom Brady team, right? You get to take a lead of 2 or 3 touchdowns in the first half, and now your defense gets to feast. And how often do the Vikings they were one of the lowest scoring first half teams last year, and so they never got out to big leads, and so their defense was, with a bunch of backups, was just stuck in these close games. Like, take big leads, let your defense tee off.
The flaw, I understand completely what people are saying, and it makes sense, but there's one big flaw there. Mike never wants to put his defense in a position to fail, and potentially a short field is failure. Mike, everything is geared in his mind. And look, I've seen some tweets about, coaches talking this week about the media has it all wrong about Mike. The media, Mike's not putting his finger on the offense, blah, blah. That's nonsense. Okay. Don't believe anything a team tells you, especially a desperate team, is nonsense. So
Patterson went on KFXN and said this.
Andre Patterson. And that's just ridiculous. But
I love Andre Patterson, by the way.
He might be a great guy, but
he's a great man.
But I'm just saying,
he seems like a good guy.
Don't believe it. Like this whole thing of, well, Mike's not doing this. Yeah, right. But Mike wants to give his defense every opportunity to succeed, which is why he wants longer drives too. He wants to keep his defense off the field as much as possible because that keeps them fresh. And if he said, okay, Kirk, let's just go to town. Let's, if you get picked, you get picked. And now the opponent gets the ball at the 30-yard line and the Vikings give up a touchdown. Statistically, that goes on Mike's defense. And in Mike's mind, that's a big deal. So the reason why he is so conservative being the nice word, coward being just a terrible word that might be accurate. The reason why is because in his mind, he doesn't want to ever gear things up for his defense to fail. And if Kirk turns the ball over, quick change deep in territory, and his defense gives up a score, that goes on the resume of his defense, not his offense.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily like that Zimmer doesn't trust rookies or doesn't trust players. Like, I don't think it's that. I think Zimmer just doesn't trust new tendencies. He loves to be in his own safe little Zimmer world. So, like, if the NFL is evolving or if something's moving towards a new direction, he wants nothing to do with that. He wants to go right back to his blankie, basically, and keep that in his back pocket. So when you run out of bounds or when he explains why they didn't take shots at the end of the first half, he is afraid of what happened 2 weeks ago, and that shouldn't have been a case at all. It's his tendencies. He loves to stay in his own little world.
Last night, too, I was thinking last night when the Eagles were making their comeback against the Bucks, and they score a touchdown to make it 28-20 pending the extra point, and they went for 2, and they succeeded and made it a 28-22 game. And I follow a lot of football analytics people who are just like, oh, my God, yes, this is
Nick
This is an
Sirianni.
analytically sound move. It's actually a move that I think Doug Pederson would have made in the past, too. Like, they went for 2 a lot. So the Eagles are fairly analytically friendly as an organization. But there was a lot of older football, like not older in age, but like old school-minded football people. And I think Mike Zimmer would have been in this group, too. And they're like, why would you go for 2? Doesn't make any sense. I think, was Troy Aikman doing the broadcast last night? Maybe he was asking, like, I don't understand. Why would you go for 2? Why not? Why make it harder? Well, the reason why, first of all, it is the analytically sound move, because people think, oh, you need, when you're down 28-14, you need 2 touchdowns. No. You're trying to win the game. You need 2 touchdowns to tie the game, and then you need a third score or overtime, and like there's a whole other thing that needs to happen. If you go for 2 on the first touchdown and miss it, you're still down by 1 score and you can still tie it. But if you go for 2 and you get it, now you're in a much better position to win the game with a second touchdown, right? So, like, but I'm thinking, is like if you try to explain that to Mike Zimmer, at what point would he just like walk off or slap you? You know? This is the analytically sound move. He's like, I don't, go away, take your spreadsheets.
And he would also, in his mind, be thinking, my defense. What can I do with my defense? What can I do with that? I just got quickly. I just got a 2-point conversion idea that I think is genius. What if you did this? And I've never seen this done. What if you ran a 2-point conversion instead of trying to kick the extra point? But your first move was to try and get the opponent to jump. Because if they jump, you're really close now. because I've never seen a team try to get the opponent on a 2-point conversion to purposely jump to get the penalty, because then the ball moves to like the 1 or something like that. And if you do it, the ball moves. If you don't,
So you're saying just line
still
up,
go for it.
just line up and do a hard count.
Yeah, but I'm saying like as an idea that I've not seen attempted before. Exactly right. And this might not extend for a long time, but just as an idea to get a team to jump offside.
Here's what I want to see. I want you to show up to Mike Zimmer's Wednesday press conference this week and pose that question and see how quickly he either walks off the podium or just jumps down and punches you.
I don't think he would with that one. I don't think that would get his ire. He might answer it, actually.
Yeah. I'm all for innovation. All right.
He'll answer. So Arif Hassan in the Wednesday press conference this week asked a question about, and it was put your finger on the bar, about the Carolina nose tackle playing a tilt. He plays a tilt. And Arif asked it, and I was like, how is Mike gonna, like, Mike can be weird. Answered it really well. Got out from behind the mic and did the tilt himself to show you how the tilt works.
What is a tilt?
It means that you sort of play sideways, and what you're trying to do is fit through like it. So instead of being right on top of the center, potentially you're tilted. So he's got to account for you, and so does the guard.
And then you just like, are you like lined up sort of side, like almost like a 45-degree angle?
Yes.
And then so you just barrel in, into two guys.
But two guys don't exactly know. Yes. It's not as crystal clear, the block, because it can be the guard, but it might not be as well. So it's confusing. But anyway, to Arif's credit, he asked this question, and Mike like went full Belichick. He started explaining it.
Dude, Belichick, what was the question? Somebody asked Belichick about like something really long snapping. He gave a dissertation, like a 9-minute answer on long snapping.
It was really good.
I'll tell you what, if you're the Vikings and it feels like your house is burning down right now, maybe you need some better insurance. Federated's here to help you with risk management. They're here to help you with peace of mind, employee protection, bottom line protection. They've got all kinds of resources in the risk management corner section of federatedinsurance.com. Find out why they've been among the best in the business for over 100 years, based in Owatonna, Minnesota. At Federated, it's our business to protect yours. All right, Feedback Friday, Vikings Therapy. Garrett, via the Score North app, sends in this question. Love what you guys do. Keep it real, fellas. Would you guys like to see a former Super Bowl winning head coach replace Mike Zimmer? Let's say Doug Pederson wants to get back in the game. Or do we roll the dice on a young hotshot like Kellen Moore? So I'll just take his names here and say, if Mike Zimmer gets fired and you only had two choices, Doug Pederson, who's won a Super Bowl, Doug Pederson, who he had a train wreck year his last year in Philly. But before that, 13-3 Super Bowl, 9-7, 9-7, another division championship, 4-2 playoff record. So he's proven. Offensive guy, right?
Yep.
Or Kellen Moore, never coached in his 30s.
Does Doug bring Brett Favre as his quarterback's coach?
I don't know if you want that. I don't know if you want that. I'm going to say no. That's a no for me, dog.
It's a no for me, dog.
I'd probably go young. I'd probably go young at this point.
Yeah,
Doug Pederson is 53, by the way.
Yeah,
53.
I mean, I would interview both, too. Like, I wouldn't just necessarily rule out Doug Pederson. I know I've been on a Kellen Moore train for a long time. And in fact, I think old tweets exposed. I need to just dig up a bunch of Kellen Moore takes from like 10 years ago when he was balling at Boise State. Nice. But I do think Kellen Moore would be exactly what the Vikings need. Just an offensive guru. And if it, by the way, if it doesn't work in 2 years and the Vikings are 3-13 or just a middling disaster, then you can fire him. Don't just get caught up in being safe with someone like Doug Pederson because he's a veteran coach. He's been there and done that. Take a chance on Kellen Moore. See what happens.
I mean, I'm going Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson has won a Super Bowl with a young quarterback, and then when that young quarterback got injured, he took Nick Foles and turned Nick Foles schematically into a Super Bowl MVP. I'm a little worried about how things sort of train wrecked toward the end in Philadelphia, but I just feel like that organization and that city is just ripe for tension and strife. It's like most coaches would get at least a 5-year grace period after winning a Super Bowl, right? He got like 2, and then they were just ready to be done with him. Unceremoniously, within 3 years of winning a Super Bowl, just dumped on his ass, and the building was up in a blaze. So I am interested in Declan's guy, Kellen Moore. But plus, then you'd have Kellen Moore coaching Kellen Mond, and it would be kind of funny.
Kellen's.
No, but it might be good.
But I'm here for if Doug Pederson wants to get back in the game, I would give Doug Pederson a shot. Yeah.
I think I'm more on the train right now of trying to go young and find, and this all comes back to, do you trust yourself to find the right guy too? But if you do trust yourself to find the right coach, I would really like a young offensive mind who also, and here's the most important thing though, because Zim has been guilty of this. Les probably wasn't around long enough to be guilty, but Brad was too. Just because one side of the football is your forte, so, I'm a defensive guy, I'm an offensive guy, I want people that understand I'm the coach of the whole football team. So it doesn't feel like, with Brad, it felt like defense was outsourced. With Mike, it feels like it's the opposite. But I also want a person who gets, I'm in charge of this entire program. And yes, I've got an expertise, and that's where I'm at my best. But that doesn't mean that I can forsake a side of the football.
Yeah.
Like Sean McVay, unless I'm wrong here, seems to me to be a bright young guy who is a really good offensive mind. But when he talks, it feels like he's coach of the Rams. So that's what I'd like.
Doug Pederson, in the year that they won the Super Bowl in Philadelphia, they were the 3rd best scoring offense and the 4th best scoring defense. So they were just great all around. And then things started to erode. Then they were 18th, 12th, and 26th in points per game offensively, and their defense dropped out of the top 10 down to 20th in 2020. So I don't know. What a weird stint for him. He did spend 3 years in Kansas City as an offensive coordinator, and they were 6th, 16th, and 9th in points. And he's been there, done that, has won a Super Bowl. But I am intrigued by just a young, up-and-coming, who's the next guy for 10-plus years. So here's one from Carter via the Score North app on this Feedback Friday. Found you all back in the summer and have been listening almost daily for months on Spotify. Thank you, Carter. Love the show. Had an interesting talker I thought you all might like to discuss involving Zimmer and his pathetic game and clock management and the need to move on from him, most likely.
So
what, if anything, would you trade Cleveland for Kevin Stefanski? I know there is little precedent for this and would be highly unlikely. However, with the history and his success, thought this could be an interesting discussion as opposed to getting a first-time head coach. First of all, Cleveland loves Kevin Stefanski. He was wasn't he the NFL Coach of the Year last year? There is zero chance they would entertain this discussion.
Yep.
However, let me zoom it out and just say, if there's a coach available, like when John Gruden, 20 years ago was traded to the Bucs, right? From the Raiders to the Bucs.
The Raiders.
I don't know who it would be. I'd have to go through a list and see, are there teams that are kind of ready to move on from a coach, but that coach is still held in high regard? It's like there was some chatter that Mike Zimmer might get traded to the Cowboys a couple of years ago, right? What would you trade for the right coach if that coach became sort of available?
Oh, I would trade a first-round pick if it's the right guy. But that would depend on the name and situation and the person. But yeah, if I could land a guy who's currently a coach whose shelf life might be on its last legs with a certain team, but that he is a really good coach, I would probably go first-round pick, which is a ton. But you can't put a price on getting the right guy.
I got it. Mike Tomlin.
He's a defense.
No.
He's good. He has had some success though. I would have
What do you mean? It's an instant no for you, Declan?
No.
Mike Tomlin is an
Instant
instant no?
Instant
Really?
no.
Why?
What?
Why would I trade a draft capital pick for him?
Because he's one of the best coaches of the
really
last
I would
15
say
years.
the only coaches I would entertain, and I'll just list Belichick, McVay, and honestly, I think that's it.
And
I
those
think
guys
those are the only two
I
coaches
think
I'd ever trade a draft pick
Belichick
for.
would be more available than McVay, which is kind of funny.
I think
Yeah, it is
you're.
funny.
I think you're too quick. Now I have to think about the Tomlin situation, but I'm not saying no. Here's the one thing about Mike that I really appreciate from day one. So he got that job in Pittsburgh, which was a shocker. I believe he was Phil, 35 or something. He was ridiculously young.
He was, something.
And at the time, and the first thing that he did, so the Vikings hired him off Gruden's staff from Tampa, where I think he had been a secondary coach. And the Vikings brought him in because the Bears had just gone to a Super Bowl with the Tampa 2. And Tomlin knew that defense backwards and forwards, and he came here and did a really good job. When he got the Pittsburgh job, the first thing he did was he allowed Dick LeBeau to keep his 3-4 defense and said, I'm not changing that. It works. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that at that age for a football coach to say that.
He's a great leader.
Like a Tampa 2 guy says, go ahead and play a 3-4.
But here's another thing. He's a defensive guy. He's a defensive guy that's open-minded and left someone else's scheme. It wasn't my way or the highway. And then between 2014 and 2018, so a 5-year stretch, the Steelers perennially had top 5 yardage offenses, and then they were right in the top 5 in scoring offenses. So he's a defensive guy telling his offensive staff, big plays, throw the ball down the field. Now it helps when you have in his prime a Hall of Fame Ben Roethlisberger. It helps when you have Antonio Brown at the time and Le'Veon. Like they had weapons all over the place, but the Vikings do too. Justin Jefferson is Antonio Brown, for my money. Yeah, so he's overseen great offenses, and I'm telling you, it's the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era. Now, there's chatter now, and Aaron Rodgers winked over at Mike Tomlin that maybe Rodgers wants to play. If Ben's done,
he might want to play for Tomlin.
He might want to play for Tomlin. I mean,
he might want to play for Tomlin.
Maybe he can in purple.
That's what I'm saying. The other thing that Mike did that's impressive, and unless I'm wrong here, but from afar, it certainly seems like he did a really good job from day one and I know I'm going to say it, and it's going to shock you people, cultivating a relationship with his star quarterback.
Crazy.
Like, I know that you're saying right now, Judd, that is not allowed, but it is. But yeah, and I covered him for a year, and I'm going to tell you, at the age of 34, this guy was incredibly impressive. He owns the room.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a presence. That's an intriguing one. That's a great name to throw out.
And I'm just fighting Declan for no reason here. But 15 seasons as an NFL head coach. You guys want to know how many times Mike Tomlin's finished below 500?
0, I think it is.
0.
Yeah.
His train wreck seasons are 8-8. Now Mike Zimmer is the same way. 7-9 is his train wreck. But Mike Tomlin wins 12, 13, 12. He's won 12 or more games in the regular season 5 times in 15 years. He's won 11. Additionally, he's won 11 games 2 or 3 times, and has also won a Super Bowl and has been to at least one more. So, and he's not even 50.
No, he's young still. He's young still, and I've got the T-shirt. Mike Tomlin returns. The T-shirt says, "Finish what we started." 2006.
When me and Chili started.
But he was here 2006. It works perfect. He came here with the Wilfs, and they said we're gonna be a Super Bowl team, and they have not been yet. Finish what we started back in 2006.
Would you buy that T-shirt at least, Declan?
No.
Really? Vikings T-shirt?
No, not that one.
Man.
No,
you're out on the Mannings, and you're out on
I feel like
Mike
you're
Tomlin,
no fun
dude.
today, dude.
I like Tomlin. Tomlin's a good
Friday.
coach. I just there's no. I'm not giving up a draft pick for him. Just no.
Dude, I'm giving. I didn't even say. I'll give up a first-round pick for Mike Tomlin, 100%.
No. Why?
You'd rather have. You'd rather have. Okay, you'd rather have. I'm just trying to think of random cornerback guy in the first round. You'd rather have a 22-year-old cornerback, or what position would you draft? Maybe you draft.
Sure.
I was gonna say Spencer Rattler, but I think he just got benched.
Yeah, I
so
think
he's not going to be a first-round pick. Or Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin would have an infinitely more, unless you nail the franchise quarterback. If it's you could get the next Andrew Luck or Mike Tomlin, I'll take Andrew Luck. But
I'm taking the chance that I'm drafting a franchise-changing player in the first round over trading it for a head coach.
dude, a head coach is going to have more influence than a defensive end.
Yeah. Yeah. We are literally talking about setting the entire culture for the franchise. Like I say, young.
And I can do that without giving up a first round pick.
Because that intrigues me. Yeah, but Tomlin's got he's been really good, successful. You know exactly what you're going to get. I do love the fact that he's a defensive guy. The more I think about this, a defensive guy who understands offense and knows that he is the head coach of the entire team.
And he's a big self-aware guy. I like
Bill,
that. I'm a big fan of him, but there's no way I'm doing that for a first-round pick.
Cool.
For Mike Tomlin,
then you can keep Zim. You and Zim can just
will.
go drink red wine together.
Me and Garrett Bradbury are gonna have a ball. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I am taking Mike Tomlin well before I dip my toe into the Doug Pederson water. I'll tell you that right now.
That sounds disgusting, but also
it's murky. It's from Philly.
I would also say like the Vikings whiff on so many first-round picks that it's so easy for me to be like, wait, I'm trading Mike Hughes or Jeff Gladney for Mike Tomlin. Like, how many times can I do that? I would give up multiple first-round picks. Micah via the Score North app says, love the pod. I want Zimmer fired ASAP for the Lions debacle. Agree with is you guys have been criticizing Spielman's drafts. The 2020 draft was maybe the best class in the entire NFL, with the exception of maybe Tampa Bay. Spielman got Justin Jefferson, Ezra Cleveland, KJ Osborne, DJ Wanham, and Cam Dantzler in 2020. All of them have shown some level of being a future starter. That's fair. They drafted some good players in 2020.
You found a game-changing player right now in Justin Jefferson. Those other guys are nice players, but I wouldn't say you stop the presses and bow at the feet for finding DJ Wanham in the 4th round, dude. Like, I think slow your roll on that one.
Jeff Gladney, unfortunately, by his own doing, has been cut. Yeah. And he was a first-round pick. That's a big deal. Like you can't just be like, bad luck.
Yeah. I need to see a little bit more of Ezra Cleveland before I'm ready to say he's, a perennial starter. But
let's also
good signs here.
Let's also briefly discuss the 2021 class. We
can't grade that yet, though.
No, but
it's 4 or 5 games into the season.
But the Wyatt Davis thing, we aren't giving that in this town enough attention. 3rd-round guard who they thought could start, who can't even get active on Sundays. Like, what the hell is going on with him?
Yeah, it's weird, but it's get back to me in a year.
Okay,
like he's a 3rd-round pick. He's not going to jump in.
We
had high expectations because of the way people talked about him going into the draft.
But they clearly did too.
You can't say he's a bust after 5 games.
No, but I'm saying
season.
I want to know more. I want details. What's going on there? What are you doing? Why is Dakota Dozier being activated on a Saturday when I'm on my couch enjoying the day and now it's ruined?
It's just in shambles.
I'm trying to enjoy my Surly on the couch, and you people send me an email saying Dakota Dozier is up for the game.
All right, couple more here, and then we'll get to Judd's keys to a Vikings victory. All right, Eric says via the Score North app, what do you see as the difference between the potential Byron Buxton contract and the Dalvin Cook contract? Both are superstar players who are often hurt and miss significant time, but there seems to be a greater willingness to give a big contract to Buxton than there was to give a big contract to Dalvin. Is the difference solely the salary cap in the NFL? Actually, that's a huge part of it, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Now, there is a sort of a glass ceiling on what you spend in baseball, and it's your revenue cap. But I also think Buxton is more important to the Twins winning games than Dalvin Cook is to the Vikings winning games.
And Buxton, yeah, because Buxton is the equivalent of what? A quarterback?
It's hard to make that. There is no equivalent of in baseball to a quarterback. But.
But I mean, he is far more than a running back. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dalvin is part of it. It's just life. Part of the knock on Dalvin is his position. That position is eminently replaceable, and I understand he's special. But the shelf life is so short. The shelf life is so short that when you're hurt as much as Cook is, it gets to be a huge problem. Because this is going to get worse and worse.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get to. I think the thing with Buxton is, right or wrong, there's precedent to say we have seen baseball players who have been hurt for extended periods of time, and then eureka, they're not hurt, and now they're fully fulfilling their potential. And oh my God, they are potentially Hall of Fame players. Give me the last running back who was really good, got dinged up quite a bit, and then at the age of 30 really took off. It doesn't happen.
Correct.
So there's far more of a precedent for a cliff for Dalvin than there is for Byron.
Yep. Nick, via the Score North app, says, I have a question that I hope makes it onto one of your comments from the shows. What will the Kirk stands do when he isn't on the team anymore? It's funny, like, I do feel like there's a faction of Vikings fans that care more about Kirk and, like, Kirk putting up numbers and Kirk avoiding blame than they care about the Vikings as a whole putting the best product they can on the field. And I wonder if those people, like if he goes and plays for the Broncos or something in a year or two, if they will travel along with him like LeBron James fans, or if he's just, okay, he's gone and they come back to their senses.
They are Kirk stands and they are Viking stands. And part of their defense of Kirk is that the franchise, and I'm not talking about everyone, I'm talking about a few, that the franchise can do no wrong. And so I think the Kirk stands will just, I mean, he'll be gone. And we've seen this. Gopher football fans do this all the time with coaches and guys. They're gone. And then the Kirk stands will turn on Kirk and be like, yeah, I'm glad he's gone. Right decision there.
Yeah, he'll go. Yeah, I agree. It's hopefully people come to their senses at some point. But, you know, he's been better this season than in a lot of situations than he has in the first few years. So anyhow, that is Feedback Friday here on Mackey and Judd, where we take your comments, your questions. You can always hit us up through the Score North app. There's a feedback tab at the bottom. And as you see, we bring them on the show. And we appreciate the community of Minnesota sports fans here on this show and also on Purple Daily.